Cries of twin babies echoed through the small room on Mugbeke Street as Azine flung her clothes into an old gotta-must-go bag. Her face was tight with anger, her movements sharp, like someone cutting ties with the past. "Azine, the girls are crying," Papa Chidi said gently, cradling their 3-month-old daughters. "They need you." Azine didn't even turn around. "They are no longer my concern," she snapped. "I didn't marry you to suffer, Chidi. Look at this room, this life, this shame." Papa Chidi swallowed his pain. "Please, if not for me, stay for Chimamanda and Oluchi. They're innocent." But Azine's voice cut like a knife. "Do whatever you want with them. I'm not their slave. I don't care if they live or die." She zipped up the bag and stormed out, slamming the wooden door hard behind her. Silence filled the room, broken only by the cries of the twins. Chidi stood there for a moment, frozen by the weight of what had just happened. Then slowly he sat on the edge of their thin mattress and pulled the girls to his chest. "I may not have much," he whispered, rocking them gently, "but I swear to you, I will be both father and mother. You will never lack love." The night passed slowly. No sleep, no food, no help. By morning, Chidi tied the girls to his chest with a thick wrapper, picked up his old wheelbarrow, and headed to Ngwa Market. People stared. Some pointed. Some whispered. Others showed pity. "Chai, Papa Chidi, may God strengthen you," an elderly woman said, pressing N500 into his hand. "This is for your angels." He bowed deeply. "Dalu, Mama." But not all were kind. A fish seller hissed, "Enjoyment, master. When you were enjoying your wife, you remember bills. Now suffer alone." Her words stung, but Chidi said nothing. His only focus was survival, for his daughters. He worked until sundown, his back aching, his arms sore. That evening, he stopped by Mama Obioma's kiosk, his voice trembling. "My girls haven't eaten all day," he said. "I don't have much, but please help." Mama Obioma looked at him with motherly concern. "Chidi, bring them tomorrow. I will help with milk and baby care. You are not alone." That night, as the baby slept beside him on the mattress, Chidi stared at the ceiling. Hunger gnawed at his belly, but peace warmed his heart. He had survived day one. And for the sake of Chimamanda and Oluchi, he would survive every other day to come. Weeks passed in Obledu, and Papa Chidi became a familiar sight in Ngwa Market. His twin girls strapped to his chest while he pushed heavy loads in his old squeaky wheelbarrow. He learned to work with one arm while supporting the babies with the other. It wasn't easy, but it was love in motion. The girls rarely cried anymore. They'd gotten used to the rhythm of the market, the shouts of traders, the clang of iron basins, the smell of fried akara. Chimamanda would giggle whenever someone tickled her toes. Oluchi loved to stare at the sky, wide-eyed and peaceful. The market women began calling them the Angel Twins. But even angels need rest. One Monday morning, as Chidi adjusted the wrapper across his chest, a voice called out from across the compound. "Chidi, come here, Biko." It was Mama Obioma, standing in her doorway with her hands on her waist, her wrapper tucked above her knees. Her face was kind, but stern. "You can't keep dragging those babies through the sun every day. Their heads will roast like yam. Bring them to me. I'll watch them while you work." Chidi hesitated. "Mama Obioma, I can't trouble you like that." She waved him off. "What else is this old woman good for, if not to help children? Abby, you think my house is only for herbs and roots? Go and hustle. Leave them with me." With tears stinging his eyes, Chidi handed over the babies. He kissed their cheeks and whispered, "Daddy will be back soon." That day he pushed his wheelbarrow with a lighter back but a heavier heart. His eyes kept drifting toward the sun, wondering if they were fed, if they cried, if they missed him. When he returned in the evening, he found Mama Obioma sitting on her wooden stool, Chimamanda asleep in her lap, and Oluchi chewing on her knuckles. Both wore fresh wrappers and smelled of baby powder. "They didn't even cry much," she said. "They have your calmness. Good girls." Chidi knelt and bowed his head. "Thank you, Mama. God bless you." From that day on, Mama Obioma became a second mother to the twins. She bathed them, rocked them to sleep, and hummed lullabies from a forgotten time. The girls started calling her Nin, and she beamed every time they reached for her. Years rolled by like market days. The girls grew into strong, graceful teenagers, beautiful in both spirit and mind. Chidi worked harder than ever, saving every kobo he could. He paid their school fees, bought second-hand books, even built a small shelf in the corner of their one-room home for their awards. By the time Chimamanda and Oluchi turned 18, they had finished secondary school and written WAEC and JAM. Chimamanda scored 328, Oluchi 341. Both secured admission to study medicine at Nnamdi Azikiwe University. That evening, they danced home with their result slips, screaming with joy. They threw themselves into their father's arms, and for the first time in years, Chidi laughed from his belly. "My daughters," he shouted, "doctors of tomorrow, the world has not seen your kind." But deep inside, his heart sank. He had no money, not even enough to sponsor one. That night, while his daughters giggled over their dreams, Papa Chidi sat in darkness, whispering into the air, "God, I am willing to work. Just show me how. I must not fail them now." He didn't know how, but one thing was certain. The wheelbarrow alone could not carry them any further. The next morning, Papa Chidi rose long before dawn. The compound was silent, save for a distant cock crowing. His daughters still slept peacefully, their admission letters resting under their pillows like promises waiting to hatch. He looked at the wheelbarrow leaning against the wall. It had been his lifeline for years, but now it felt like a shadow of what he needed. "I've carried them this far," he murmured, "but this next journey needs more than strength." He left without touching the barrow. Clothed in a faded shirt and clean trousers, Papa Chidi walked through the narrow streets of Obaladu until he reached Umudim Close, a lane of large houses where the wealthy lived behind tall gates. He approached the first one and knocked. A security guard opened the gate with suspicion. Moments later, a hefty man in silk pajamas appeared on the balcony. "Who is disturbing my sleep?" "Good morning, sir," Chidi called out, falling to his knees. "Please, I want to work for you. I'll wash your clothes, clean your house, cook your food. I just need help sending my twin daughters to university. I will serve you faithfully until they graduate." The man scoffed. "Medicine? For 2 girls? Do I look like a charity?" The gate slammed shut. But Papa Chidi didn't stop. He went to 5 more homes. In each one, he knelt. In each one, he begged. And in each one, he was turned away. Some laughed, some ignored him completely. By the time he returned home that evening, his legs ached and his heart was heavy. The twins greeted him with smiles, but he forced his own. He couldn't tell them yet, not when their eyes still sparkled with hope. For 2 days, he worked in silence. He barely spoke. He barely ate. But on the 3rd night, he could no longer hold it in. He called Chimamanda and Oluchi into his room. The lamp flickered beside him as he sat on the edge of the bed. "My daughters," he began, his voice low. "I'm sorry. I tried. I truly tried. But I don't have the money to send you to school." "Not yet." The girls were quiet. Chidi turned his face to the wall, his voice cracking. "I made a promise when your mother left. I said I would carry you anywhere your dreams wanted to go. Now I don't even have enough to get you across town." The silence broke with the sound of soft sniffles. Oluchi placed her hand gently on her father's. "Papa, you didn't fail," she whispered. "You're the reason we've made it this far." Chimamanda added, "Whether we become doctors or not, we are proud of you." They embraced him, holding tight as if their arms could stitch up the tear in his heart. That night, when the girls were asleep, Papa Chidi dropped to his knees beside his mat. "Chukwu okike," he whispered to God, "I am a man with nothing, but you are a God with everything. If there is any mercy left for a poor man, please, help me help them." Tears streamed down his face, soaking the floor beneath him. He didn't know it yet, but the heavens were listening. And soon mercy would arrive, in a briefcase wrapped in destiny. The next morning, Chimamanda and Oluchi rose early. The glow in their eyes had dimmed, but their spirits were steady. They had made a quiet decision the night before. If their father could give up everything for them, then they could give up a little time for him. Without waking Papa Chidi, they went to the university to defer their admission. It wasn't an easy choice, but they believed their dream could wait. Love came first. Later that afternoon, they walked around town looking for jobs. After many rejections, one small eatery called EL Kitchen finally agreed to hire them. "Start tomorrow," the owner said. "Dishwashing, serving food, clean work, small pay." "Thank you, sir," they replied in unison. From that day, the twins worked tirelessly. Chimamanda served meals with grace. Oluchi cleaned tables with cheer. Their humility and respect won hearts quickly. Customers left generous tips. A few men made advances, offering money in exchange for their dignity. But the girls always refused with quiet firmness. Every evening, they came home, counted their earnings, and dropped them into a red biscuit tin labeled Dr. Fun. Papa Chidi never touched the money, but every night he prayed over it like it was a sacred offering. Weeks turned into months. One rainy evening, as they were closing the restaurant, Oluchi noticed something under a plastic chair. "Sister, what's this?" It was a black leather briefcase, neat, firm, and forgotten. They hesitated, then opened it gently. Inside were wads of US dollars, a passport, and thick documents sealed with a royal emblem. The sisters stared at each other, their hearts pounding. "Whoever owns this, they're very rich," Chimamanda whispered. Without a second thought, they closed it and took it home. When they showed it to Papa Chidi, he examined the documents and nodded gravely. "This is not ordinary. The owner will surely come back for it." The next morning, they returned to EL Kitchen early. Just as the sun peeked over the rooftops, a black Lexus SUV pulled up. A sharply dressed young man stepped out, looking anxious. "Did anyone find a black briefcase here yesterday?" he asked. "Yes," Oluchi said, handing it to him. The man opened it, checked everything, and let out a deep breath. "You don't know what you've just done." He turned to leave. "No reward?" Oluchi muttered under her breath, half joking. Chimamanda laughed. "Oluchi the millionaire." They laughed it off and got back to work, not knowing that fate was not yet done with them. That afternoon, the black SUV returned. This time, the man stepped out with a calm smile. "I'm Prince Ibuka," he said. "My family owns Palace Point Hotels. You saved something very important to us, documents for a land deal that could have destroyed our name." He paused, then pointed to a compound across the road. "We were planning to reopen a restaurant there but never got to it. Now, it's yours, fully paid for. Consider it your reward." The girls froze. Chimamanda blinked. "You're giving us a restaurant?" "Yes, with furniture, cookware, even staff uniforms if you need them." Tears spilled down Oluchi's cheeks. "We were just trying to be honest. And that," Prince Ibuka said, "is the very reason you're being blessed." They rushed home that evening and found Papa Chidi resting in front of their compound. "Papa!" Chimamanda screamed, breathless. "We have a restaurant!" Oluchi held out the key like a trophy. "It's ours now, Papa, a real one!" People stared as the girls jumped into their father's arms. He held them close, stunned. "God," he whispered, "you heard me." And somewhere above the roofs of Obeledu, a quiet answer whispered back through the wind. The opening of the restaurant brought a wave of joy to Obeledu. The girls named it Inne's Table, in honor of Mama Obioma, the woman who had stepped in when their mother walked out. The place was warm and elegant, with purple curtains, wooden benches, and the sweet smell of egusi soup and jollof rice wafting through the air. Word spread fast. People loved the food, but more than that, they loved the story behind it. Two young girls who rose from struggle to success. Customers came not just to eat, but to experience hope. Chimamanda and Oluchi ran the place with humility. They hired two other girls from the community, trained them with care, and treated them like family. Papa Chidi came around every afternoon to sit quietly in the corner with a plate of ofe nsala and a bottle of malt. He had become a symbol of inspiration in the town. Then, one afternoon, a woman walked into the restaurant. She wore a faded Ankara dress and carried a nylon bag that had seen better days. Her hair was tied in a scarf, and her face looked weary but hopeful. "I'm looking for work," she said quietly to one of the staff. "I can sweep, wash plates, anything." She was led to Chimamanda and Oluchi. There was something about her voice, something unsettling, something familiar. "Where are you from?" Oluchi asked gently. "From Enugu originally," the woman said. I used to live here in Obeledu, a long time ago." She looked down. "I've made many mistakes, but I'm trying to start again." The girls exchanged glances. A feeling stirred deep inside Chimamanda's chest, one she didn't understand. They gave her a job in the kitchen washing dishes. She worked hard. She barely spoke. The next day, Papa Chidi came by to drop off a basket of ripe plantains. As he walked into the back kitchen, he saw her. He froze. The woman turned slowly, her eyes locking with his. Silence. "Izini," he whispered. His voice trembled like dry leaves. She gasped and stepped back. "Chidi!" He turned and walked away, slowly, like someone trying to carry years of memories in a single step. He found the girls and sat them down. "The woman you just hired," he said quietly, "is your mother." Their mouths dropped open. "Our what?" "Her name is Azing. She left when you were 3 months old. I burned all her pictures. I didn't want her memory to haunt you." The sisters went pale. They rose and entered the kitchen. Azine stood still as they approached. Tears had already filled her eyes. "My daughters," she whispered. Chimamanda cut her off. "No, don't call us that. You left us to die. You left Papa to suffer." Azina began to cry. "I was young, foolish. I thought I was chasing a better life." Oluchi turned away, tears stinging her eyes. "Well, that life has chased you back to where you started." Chimamanda reached into the till, pulled out a wad of cash and handed it to her. "This is more than you've worked for. Go and start again, but not here. Our mother is Mama Obioma. You're just a stranger." She turned her back. Oluchi stood frozen, torn between pain and pity. That night, Oluchi wept in their room. "I don't know how to feel," she whispered. "I know," Chimamanda replied. "Me too." The next day, Azini returned, not to beg, but to apologize. This time, she came with nothing but her voice. "I will never earn your trust overnight," she said, her face tired and sincere. "But if you allow me to try again, I'll stay far, serve well, and hurt no one." After much silence and struggle, the girls allowed her to stay, but only as an employee, not as their mother. It was a fragile peace, but peace nonetheless. At first, things seemed calm. Izini, now simply called Madame E, worked quietly as a restaurant matron. She coordinated the kitchen, handled supplies, and managed staff shifts. Customers noticed her gentle smile and efficient pace. For a while, Ninne's table glowed brighter than ever. But over time, the cracks began to show. She started snapping at junior staff. Once she scolded a server harshly in front of customers for bringing the wrong bottle of water. Another time, she threw a tray across the kitchen when soup spilled on the floor. "You call this pepper soup?" she barked. "Even pigs deserve better." The warmth that once made Ninne's table special began to fade. Staff became quiet, nervous. Chimamanda and Oluchi noticed it, but they kept hoping Azine would adjust. Until one evening, Chimamanda walked into the kitchen and overheard Azine talking to a cook. "Those girls think they're better than me. Just because I made one mistake, now they act like I'm begging them for scraps." The cook stood frozen. That night, the twins sat her down. "Mama," Oluchi started, then caught herself. "Azine, we want to talk." "You don't call me your mother," Izini snapped before they even started. "You think you made yourselves? I brought you into this world." Chimamanda stayed calm. "You abandoned us. Papa raised us. Mama Obioma mothered us. You're here because we allowed it, Not because you earned it. Izine's face darkened. And what about your father? That lazy man you worship? Always collecting your money like some retired king? He's done nothing while I've been washing plates. Enough! Chimamanda slammed her hand on the table. Don't speak of Papa like that. You left him to rot. He carried us on his back in the sun, with no money and no help. He worked until his bones shook. Tears welled in her eyes. Don't you dare insult him. Silence, thick, tense, painful. The next morning they spoke to Papa Chidi. He listened quietly, his face unreadable. She is your mother, he said softly, but she is also a woman who hasn't healed. If you keep her here, she'll poison the joy you've worked for. Oluchi sighed. So what do we do? You do what I did when she left, he said. You choose peace over pain. You forgive, but you don't invite the storm into your roof. That afternoon, the twins called Izine into the office. You can't work here anymore, Chimamanda said gently. Izine hissed. Of course, your father has turned you against me. Oluchi slid a brown envelope across the table. We've rented a small shop for you outside town. You can start over. We've stocked it with provisions and paid 3 months' rent. Izine paused. You're still trying to be the saints, I see, she said coldly, but one day your pride will bring you down. She walked out without another word. That evening, Papa Chidi stood on the restaurant balcony as the sun dipped below the horizon. She left again, Oluchi whispered. Chidi nodded. Some storms come twice, but this time we're strong enough to stand. And as the aroma of jollof rice filled the street once more, the warmth returned to Tenne's table. The heart of the restaurant, love, not pain, was beating again. With Izine gone, a quiet peace settled over Tenne's table. Laughter returned to the kitchen. The staff no longer worked in fear. Customers came not just for the food, but for the atmosphere, the warmth, the integrity, the humility. Chimamanda and Oluchi had restored the soul of their dream. And the restaurant flourished. They expanded their menu, added Sunday specials, registered their business formally as Nna's Table Group. Even the local radio station did a feature on their story, calling them the Miracle Twins of Obeledu. They opened a second branch in Awka, then a third in Enugu. Life had taken a new rhythm, one not built on desperation, but on purpose. But amid the success, an old conversation returned. One quiet evening, after closing, Papa Chidi sat outside, sipping Zobo under the stars. The girls joined him, barefoot and tired, but fulfilled. Oluchi broke the silence first. Papa, do you remember our dream? Chidi looked up. Medicine? She nodded. Yes, becoming doctors. Chimamanda smiled. It still lives in me, but it's quieter now. I don't burn for it like I used to. Chidi nodded thoughtfully. Dreams don't always die. Sometimes they change clothes. I think this restaurant is our hospital now, Oluchi added. We're not healing bodies, but we're healing hearts. The three of them sat in silence for a while, watching as the sky blinked with stars. It was true. Their original dream had changed, but in its new form, it was still beautiful. Then came a new season. Love. Suitors began to appear. Not the flashy, boastful kind who were drawn by wealth, but men who had watched the twins grow through hardship. One was a school teacher who admired Chimamanda's discipline. The other, a young entrepreneur who respected Oluchi's warmth and resilience. The girls took their time, but love blossomed. Wedding plans quietly began. One afternoon, the girls sat their father down in the office, nervous. Papa, Chimamanda began, we're planning to marry on the same day. Chidi's eyes twinkled. Ah, so the day has finally come. Oluchi smiled. But we're worried. You'll be alone. Alone? He asked. We've been thinking, she continued. You've carried us for so long. But you deserve joy too, not just memories. Chidi looked puzzled. What do you mean? Chimamanda took his hand. There's someone we'd like you to meet. Her name was Madame Amaka, a soft-spoken widow who worked in their second branch in Alka. She had 2 children and a calming presence. The twins had often confided in her, drawn to her motherly grace and quiet strength. "She's kind, Papa," Oluchi said. "She prays. She listens. She respects you." Chidi's heart beat quietly. He hadn't thought of marriage in years, not since Ezene's shadow fell across his life. But something in their words stirred something long buried. "I need time," he said, and they gave him that. 2 days later, he met Madame Amaka. They talked, they laughed, they prayed. And for the first time in decades, Chidi smiled like a man no longer carrying the past on his back. The morning sun rose gently over Obaladu, bathing the streets in gold. From Nanguo Market to Mugbeke Street, the air buzzed with excitement. It wasn't just one wedding day, it was three. Chimamanda, Oluchi, and Papa Chidi were all getting married. The twin brides glowed in elegant ivory lace, their natural hair adorned with coral beads. Papa Chidi wore a crisp white caftan with deep blue embroidery, his agbada flowing like honor draped on a king. On his arm was Madame Amaka, regal in her simplicity, smiling softly, eyes filled with calm strength. Mama Obioma, frail but proud, stood as the mother of the day. She held a staff carved with the word Na, a gift from the twins to the woman who had become their true mother. The church hall, St. Dominic's, overflowed. Not a single seat was empty. Even those who once mocked Papa Chidi stood in the back, some with wet eyes, watching a miracle unfold. When the priest called the couples forward, he paused for a moment. "I have witnessed many weddings," he said, "but this is not just a wedding. This is a resurrection, a story of grace that rose from ashes." As they exchanged vows, tears streamed down Papa Chidi's face. Not tears of pain, but tears of peace. Every hunger, every insult, every night on the floor beside wailing babies. It all led here. After the ceremony, the reception was held at the first branch of Nene's table, now transformed with white tents, golden lights, and high-life music echoing through the streets. Guests ate nkwobi, isiawu, jollof rice, and sweet fried plantain. Even Prince Ibuka attended, delivering a speech that left the crowd cheering. These girls reminded me that honesty isn't just a virtue, it's a seed, and today, we're all eating the fruit. Later that evening, the twins pulled Papa Chidi aside. "We made a promise," Chimamanda said, "that no matter where life takes us," Oluchi added, "we'll always take care of you." They handed him a leather folder. Inside were title documents, a bungalow in Alka, a personal driver, and monthly upkeep from Nene's Table Group profits. "You've worked enough," Chimamanda said. "Now rest like a king." Chidi wept silently. "I was just a man with a wheelbarrow," he whispered. "But you pushed us to destiny," Oluchi replied. "And kings don't always wear crowns. Sometimes they wear slippers and carry twins in the sun." The three embraced tightly. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner, Ezine watched from afar. She had not been invited to the church, but she came to watch the celebration from outside the fence. She clutched the necklace her daughters had once worn as babies. Her shop was running, small but stable. She had learned her lesson. Not all doors that close are locked forever, but some must be knocked on with humility. And she was learning to knock. As the music soared and the dance floor filled with joy, Nene's table became more than a restaurant. It became a monument of sacrifice, a temple of resilience, a song of fatherhood, and a living proof that love, when carried, can build kingdoms from brokenness.